Welcome to Conversations in Education. I am your host, Pedro Sayas, Director of Communications and Marketing for Hartford Public Schools. In the words of President Barack Obama, from his 2016 proclamation on Hispanic Heritage Month, our nation has found strength in the diversity of our people. With faith and passion, a strong work ethic, and a deep devotion to the family, the Hispanic community has helped to carry forward our legacy as a vibrant symbol of opportunity for all. Whether it be generations that are here or because they are some of the newest American members of our American family, they represent many countries and cultures, each adding its own distinct and dynamic perspective to the history of our country. In celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize the contributions Hispanics have made throughout our history, and we emphasize the rich diversity that keeps our communities strong. Today, we will be talking about Hispanic culture and education in Hartford, a city where 56% of our families are native Spanish speakers. This month, we celebrate many cultures and so many Latinos who have been significant contributors to our changing American society and culture. Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, Roberto Clemente, Judge Sonia Sotomayor. The list is vast, and with that thought, I welcome our guest, Mayra Lozada, President and founder of the Julio Lozada Foundation, and Monica Quiñones, Interim Principal at Naylor School and Executive Director of English Language Learners at Hartford Public Schools. Mayra, Monica, bienvenidas.
Gracias, Pedro.
So Mayra, let's start with you. Your family came to Hartford many years ago, and you've grown up here in the Hartford community ever since. Can you talk about your experience as a Hispanic person, not technically an immigrant because you're coming from Puerto Rico, but still a Spanish speaker and a Spanish culture? How was that life growing up here and your life throughout your stay here in Hartford?
It was very interesting coming. When I first got here, we got here in November, and it was the first snow of the winter for that year. So I really and quickly learned how cold it could get, and I wasn't used to that. But I have learned a lot graduating from Hartford High and how diverse, Hartford is. So it's been fun.
What year did your family arrive here in the city?
1974, and don't quote me.
And you're still a resident of Hartford?
Yes.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and we'll be talking a little bit more to you. But Monica, similar question to you. Talk to us about your family background and how did you arrive here in Hartford?
Okay, well, I was born in Peru. My family's from Peru. And when I was 5 years old, my mom moved us to New York. And from then, I did come here as an English learner. My first language was Spanish, or is Spanish. And from New York, we moved to Connecticut at a young age. But all my educational experience has been here in Hartford. So I've been going on 16 years here in Hartford, and it's a very diverse city with cultures, and I find that experience growing up is very different from my educational experience here working in Hartford.
Interesting. So Mayra, going back to you, as a Spanish speaker, what was your experience growing up in Hartford?
When I first got here, which I found funny, and I used to translate literally,
From English to Spanish?
From English to Spanish. And I remember going into the supermarket and seeing eggplant. So automatically I thought it was, But
Huevo y planta.
Una planta de huevo. So that's how I had to, and being the oldest, I had to translate for my mother. So that's when I had to learn that you don't translate literally. I had to learn the language fast by being the oldest one, and that you don't translate literally.
It happens often, right, that the younger kids, and usually the oldest one, will be the one to pick up the language faster than the parents many times, and then basically be the translator for the older folks as you arrive here in a different country and different culture. Was that your experience?
Yes,
also?
that was my experience. We had no choice. I had to help my mother. I always help my mother, and having 4 siblings, you know, she will need help, and wherever she went, to the state office, the doctor's office, I will be the one translating. It was me or my sister.
And we still see that today, right, Monica? You have been involved with education in Hartford for many years, very much dedicated to the English Language Learners Program. Can you tell us a little bit of how that work of teaching immigrants, especially Spanish immigrants or Spanish-speaking immigrants, how to go about the culture? Sometimes it's not just about language, it's also the culture, right? What is your experience as someone who's dedicated to English language learners here in Hartford?
Absolutely. It really is about culture and language, and I think that's a misconception where everyone thinks that as long as they learn the language of English, you'll be all set.
Right.
And coming from another country with different customs, even the way our school system is set up is very different. It's such a different experience. And my personal experience coming here, they didn't have bilingual programs. They didn't have a situation where I was surrounded by students that spoke Spanish. I was surrounded by students that spoke English. And therefore, my mom was told she's going to have 8 months of English support. And if she doesn't learn English after 8 months, she'll have to repeat the grade. And that was it. And that, for my mom, was like, well, you have to learn English. And therefore, the rule was English at school, Spanish at home. And I appreciate that from my mom, that she kept our culture and our language. So I didn't forget it. It wasn't a throwaway where you're from, but she understood that I need to learn English. And fast forward till now, I see that sometimes that becomes something that parents hear and they become scared.
Right.
If my kids don't speak English all the time, then they're not going to learn.
Right.
And that's something that, working here in Hartford, I've always said to parents, don't forget where you've come from. Teach that to your kids. Your children must know their language. They must know how to speak it. They have to be able, in the future, it'll be a benefit to them.
Absolutely.
But that's something that, you know, when we're told they have to learn English, yes, but never forget where you're from and your culture. So important.
Absolutely. And where is the English Language Learners Program now? What is the focus? What do we do with these students as they arrive here speaking Spanish? Well, it's important to preserve their Spanish cultures and traditions, and it's a wealth of resources for them in the future. What do we do now? What do we do nowadays to make sure they can be successful in education?
If there was a one answer to solve that issue, we'd be golden.
Yeah.
Because we try to group all our English learners as one, and they're not. Just like we're all different, there is a wealth of difference, even within our Spanish speakers. Some come very highly educated from their countries. Some come already having English in their native country. And some are coming to us having to deal with hardships, and therefore a very different experience. In the times that we live in, you know that some parents have had to send their kids for safety reasons. So all of that, we have to now get to know that child to see what works best for them. When they first come here, we do provide them bilingual services. And as you know, with 47 schools in Hartford, they're not all going to one school.
Right.
We want to give them the choice. It is a choice system, and so they get to choose where they go, and wherever they are is where we provide services. Along with bilingual services, we provide ESL, which is the English component to it. And as of recently, the laws used to be 30 months, so 3 years, which really defies research, but that's the way the law.
So you have 3 years to adapt to the system, and then you're sort of thrown out fully into the open water.
You still receive ESL services,
Okay.
but that changed a couple of years ago in 2015 when we said, this isn't working for our kids. There's some kids that need to be in bilingual service a little bit longer. And so now, because of that, students every year can apply for bilingual extensions. And we've done that in Hartford. Started last year and this year as well. So if they need that extra 10 months, we do that. And we can do that 3 times. So they can reach up to 60 months of bilingual services if that child needs it.
Do we also at Hartford Public Schools, well, first of all, do all our schools have a high level population of Spanish speakers or otherwise English language learners? Is it all across our schools?
We have English speakers across our schools, but they're not evenly distributed. No, they're
So
not.
some schools have more than others?
Some schools have more than others. Some have a handful. Some have in the hundreds. So it's a wide range.
And what services are provided to the families of these students? Because as I was speaking with Myra, sometimes the students and the young people are the first ones to pick up the culture and the language. It's the parents who struggle more to understand the school system, the requirements, even just filling out enrollments and stuff like that. What do we do for the families of these children?
That's a good question. And what we try to do is, first of all, open up that lines of communication, because sometimes they're new here. So having that trust factor is huge.
Yep.
Sometimes things are happening that they need help beyond the language issue. Because when you come from a country other than anywhere in the United States, you can't come here and just apply for services or apply to get some sort of support or help. Some of them are on their own. And so they struggle with those kind of issues. So we try to help in that aspect as well, as far as routing them to those needs, because sometimes those are the primary needs at the very beginning. And then getting to know their family, because as you know, in our culture, it's not just mommy and papi. Tenemos la abuela, el abuelo,
Tío, los
primos, and we're all family.
Right.
And so that's a huge component of us getting to know that family, then getting to know how can we best support them and their student. When they see that opens up those lines of communications of how we can partner. Now, as far as us, what we're trying to do is develop in some schools where we have high population of Spanish-speaking students, a place where parents can come and learn English. So some English classes. So we are going to begin those, and because we have across the district teachers who are TESOL certified, so they're certified to teach English. So we're hoping to begin that in a couple of schools this year.
And it's so important. That's why we dedicate so many resources, right, to help these families out, because they are entrusting us with their children. So we really need to make sure that they feel comfortable with us and that the communication is open, so that we can work together on that education. Myra, you are the founder and president of the Julio Lozada Foundation. Can you talk to us about the history of the foundation and who is Julio Lozada and what it means for Latinos here in Hartford?
Julio Lozada was my only brother. He died in 1979, and he died because of a language barrier. A garage, a 10-storage garage, collapsed, and he was buried under it. When they called the firefighters, there was no one that spoke English. The firefighters had no one that spoke Spanish, so they left. 45 minutes later, when they came, he died on the way to the hospital. The foundation, that death made an impact in the Latino community, because politicians weren't aware of the diversity of how many Latinos we had in the community, how much we needed help. And my mother decided that his death wasn't going to be in vain. And together with community leaders like Maria Sanchez, Eugenio Caro, Antonio Soto, Julio Molleda, and many others, they fought, and they were able to change a lot of the things that were going on. And one of them was the lack of people that spoke any other language besides English in the public safety jobs, including teachers. In 1980, they hired, I think it was like 30 Latinos firefighters, and from that first group, that's where we got the first 2 Latino fire chief, which it was Casares and Huertas, amazing people. They also there used to be a prison on 7th Street that came down, and they did a park in Julito's memory. It's called the Lozada Park. I have to look at the paper because I could never remember so many things. The landers were were violating housing codes. Now they're more stricter. So back then, they became an active prosecution of landlords who own properties that violated housing, fire, or health code. Immediate foreclosure of abandoned and deteriorated buildings on which taxes are overdue, recruited bilingual firefighters and police officers, but in general it was all public safety jobs. The hiring of Hispanic housing code inspectors. So there was a lot of changes in 1980, and the foundation was founded to remind people that Julio's death made history, and the fight that my mother did together with the community leaders made a difference, not only in Latinos, but in all the diverse community that we have in Hartford, which have been adopted by the entire state, and people forgotten. So we help, in our foundation, we give scholarships, we help schools, we help the community. But my main focus was to remind people that Julio was someone, so was Nilda Guzman.
That's certainly a very powerful and sad story, but I am glad that you are here to remind us about Julio's story, and that the city of Hartford was able to, move quickly and make amends and perhaps improve the conditions for future generations. And my question, Monica, would be this: how can we, in light of Myra's story, right? We're talking about 1979, and a lot of things has changed, but there's still a lot of work to do. How can we improve the experience of immigrants and their children as they come to Hartford?
That's a loaded question because we always have to make improvements. The conditions for which our immigrant population is coming over has changed over the years. As you know, in my mom's time, it was for a better life, an opportunity. But now we're getting a lot of students of need, refugees, because of dangers happening elsewhere. And at the same time, in light of where our country is today, as far as the messages that we've been hearing lately, that's becoming a warning signs for us to change how we're going to make improvements. And I think we have to start within ourselves, within our own school systems, and reiterate the fact that we're here and that our students are safe. So first and foremost, that we're here for all of our students, and we have to make them feel safe regardless of what's going on around the world today, even here in the United States. We need to be there, everyone in the school system, not just the teachers, not just the admin, everyone who works in there. And our kids need to know that when they get to school, that's a safe zone for them, that they're not afraid that something's going to happen to them, that they're going to be taken away, that they're going to worry about mom who's at home, that she might not be there when they get back. And those are kind of fears that have come about recently, in the past year especially. And those are true things that we need to face them. We can't say that's not happening here. It is happening here. And we need to become aware of that. So we have to be well informed within our own system, Hartford Public Schools, that we're sending that message throughout all the schools, whether you have 5 Spanish-speaking students or you have 236, because that's the only way that our kids are going to be able to move forward. If not, we're going to put them in a holding cell where they're not going to be able to move forward because of fear that they may be feeling. So we really need to change that, and we need to become aware, and really it's an alert for us to, this is serious, and we either as building leaders or Hartford Public School leaders have to make that message clear, not only to the kids but to the families, that not only are they welcome, but when they drop their kids off, their kids are safe.
It's interesting that you would mention words as a way to improve our immigrants' situation as they arrive in the United States and in Hartford, because these are not just words, right? These actually create a lot of stress in our students and our families, a lot of pressure situations, uncertainty. We've heard the talk about DACA potentially being taken away. I am glad to say, though, that our governor and our mayor and our superintendent have been very proactive in the messaging around this, that the mission of the school district is to educate every child that's in the district. The school district is not concerned with documentation. Any documentation that we require is just to make sure that we can provide the services that students need. So usually related to immigration, it's just about what language you speak so that we can provide the services in that language. Anything else? Please, we are begging parents to please send us our kids so that we can fulfill our duty, our legal or moral duty, to educate them. And it's clear that both Governor Malloy and Mayor Bronin are also on the same page as Superintendent Torres Rodriguez. Myra, you were talking about your foundation and Julito's story and making sure we can keep his name alive here in Hartford and in Connecticut. How can the community get involved with the foundation and help support the group of the Julio Lozada Foundation?
Well, they go volunteer, become a board member, or if they don't want that responsibility, they could help by becoming Friends of Julio Lozada. They could go on the website, www.juliolozada.org. They could also attend our event September 23rd. There's going to be a softball tournament, Harford Police against the Harford Firefighters. It's going to be at the Yard Gold Stadium in downtown. We also have a banquet coming up that's where we give the awards and the scholarships to the students. That's going to be November 4th at the Holiday Inn in East Hartford, 7 o'clock. And the tickets for both, they're available at the website. Any questions that they might have, they could also donate to the foundation. The money is going to go to the scholarships or the community, helping the community. With we're also working on a mentoring program that hasn't been finalized yet. And any questions, they could always call me, 860-888-4678.
All right, so this game is part of Hispanic Heritage Month, right? We have
Yes.
the Hartford Police against the Hartford Firefighters at Dunkin' Donuts Park, a beautiful ballpark. Lots of ways that you can help and join the Julio Lozada Foundation and their efforts. Monica, back to you. Why is Hispanic Heritage Month important at Naylor School, the school that you are principal of at this point?
So currently this is my third week there. But I know that they've value the culture because that is a very culturally diverse school. And it's not only something that is done as a one-day celebration, it's embedded within our curriculum. So the Latino experts that you mentioned at the very beginning, Mr. Chavez, that's embedded in our curriculum. And I think that's important because it's not only a one-day special, but it is a part of what we need to learn about our culture. And therefore, what we try to do is absolutely have something special for that month where teachers do special little activities with the kids. They get to write about what they're about and share that with the classroom and share it with their grade levels. But at the same time, continue that throughout the year.
Very important to celebrate our culture and our diversity and our wealth. I thank you both. Muchas gracias, Mayra. Muchas gracias, Monica. I want to thank our guests for being with us today. Please explore all the great events this month and all year long that celebrate Hispanic culture in the city of Hartford. And don't forget to get your tickets for the Hartford Fire Department versus the Hartford Police Department first annual Julio Lozada Softball Classic as they face each other at Dunkin' Donuts Park on September 23rd. You can visit www.juliolozada.org for more information and to get tickets. Thank you very much.